There we go. Cool. Hey, BJ. Hey, Sam. Hey, Sergey.
Hi.
Hey, Mark.
Awesome. Hope everyone's doing well and just excited to have you all here. I think it's fun to do a little session on kind of what it takes to make sustainable mobility a reality. I think there's probably never been more hype around the topic than there is now. So I think you all are taking some interesting approaches, and I thought that was probably the most fun part of this conversation to dig into is, the fact that every one of you is looking at what it takes to make a kind of sustainable transition in mobility. You're looking at it in a different way, right? So maybe it might be fun just to go around and like highlight really quickly for each of you, what it means to be working on a sustainable solution for mobility, or like I don't want to make it too competitive, but like maybe why you feel like your approach has like kind of value that maybe other people are not seeing. I know everything's a little bit differentiated from batteries all the way through to kind of user experience of EVs. So I guess like Matt, if you want to take it away and kind of explain to us the approach or what led you to take this angle on sustainability.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think the differentiation point that I think we just identified is that with all the technology that is being developed and all of it is amazing, we're going to make advancements, but we still need to have consumer buy-in. We really can't rely purely on mandate. So we're going to have to also connect the dots between two very large industries that have, for the most part, never really communicated and worked together, being the energy sector, electricity specifically, and the auto sector. The auto sector, again, has had a trusted partner with fossil fuels for over a century, and the electrical grid is going to be their new fuel supplier. And so how do we make that so that is easier to understand? And I think that fundamentally, there's a massive disconnect there. And every day that we get a chance to speak to new utilities, and thanks to the help of Plug and Play and this cohort and working with Catherine Snorson, we've been able to connect to utilities in Michigan and talk about what we're looking at. And we still every day see that disconnect between those who are producing electricity and those who are making the cars are just not speaking the same language. And at the end of the day, for all the efforts we're making, we have to get consumers to understand the value quickly. Otherwise, it's gonna be very difficult to get them on board. And that includes other businesses too that we need working in our favor. I always default to looking at it from like the Wozniak Jobs dynamic. We've got a lot of Wozes in this space that are making amazing products, but we need a few more jobs mindsets to say, how do we get people to buy into this and understand how we're doing it? And that's really what we're looking at for our software platform, is to connect those dots, and totally, it's invaluable.
Fair. I think maybe I'm gonna kind of dynamically go through this, but I think on that topic of maybe more kind of like near-term integrations that can really push a sustainable future. I think BJ, you might have some interesting takes on working within the paradigm of kind of fossil fuels and pushing that as far as it can towards sustainability. I'm curious if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, the near term versus long term, I mean, it's not about still using fossil fuels. We need to transition away from fossil fuels, and that's exactly what ClearFlame enables. We enable the traditional way engines are used without the traditional alliance that Matt was referring to of being dependent on the big oil sector. I think what I would sort of do to level set here is, Mark, you're talking about sustainable mobility, and we shouldn't use the word mobility like it's some sort of monolithic thing, of course, right? This is an incredibly fragmented market. And so ClearFlame, I don't think we're really in serious competition with a lot of what's being addressed here, because where electric vehicles work well, they're pretty much always the best solution. The question is, what do we do with the parts of the mobility ecosystem, the freight transportation, the rail, the marine ways that are going to be much, much, much slower to adopt electrification because the infrastructure and the technology is lacking. If we don't do something to address those sectors as well in a way that is easier for those users to adopt, then their sectors are not going to decarbonize, and they are a large enough part of the overall climate change problem that we have to be targeting all these markets. So speed absolutely matters, ease of adoption absolutely matters, and perhaps most importantly, understanding that there is not one silver bullet to solve this problem is something I think the entire world needs to embrace. Totally
fair. Yeah, and I guess on the kind of notion that there are no silver bullets and maybe it's like a whole ecosystem of solutions that we're seeing, I guess, Sam, I'm interested in your take on how I think you have much more of like the integration layer, the kind of like software that is needed to kind of push electric vehicles forward, especially in segments that maybe we are not so used to hearing about necessarily. You were talking about kind of like UTVs and different vehicles. I suppose I'm curious to hear what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I think BJ, if that's your name, you brought up some good points there. Sorry, you brought up some good points there around there's all these different industries that no one's really thinking about right now that have to make this transition towards electric as well. And the fact is that these are the industries that really don't have that skill sets, that are focused around these more eco-friendly solutions and I guess more software centric and less mechanically focused in a lot of ways. So it's interesting when you start diving into those industries that they're really going to start facing some significant challenges in making this transition over, and it proves to be a pretty unique opportunity for companies that can come in and help these companies in their transition as they move towards electric and move towards more sustainable solutions, such as what you're doing with ClearFlame. And I think what we're doing with Potential Motors and kind of on the software architecture layer and the electrical integration side of it, being able to help enable that transition and kind of reduce the complexity in setting up some of these electrical architectures is really something that can help in making these companies have an easier transition in that space.
Totally fair. Yeah, and I think maybe another conversation that we sort of hear about time and again, and I think Sergey might have some perspective on, is working on some of the deeper tech innovations around batteries and around I guess like increasing the capacity of our batteries, lowering costs. Those are, I think at least I personally feel, talking to founders, go back and forth between understanding that there are some very near-term realities of the price of batteries dropping, but then there's still some big needs for battery capacity to continue increasing, prices to decrease. I'm curious as to your thoughts on the timeline of that, Sergey, and maybe what you're seeing with AI chemists bringing some of those solutions to the market.
Our sustainable solution is based on new battery materials, which in transition right now. So large factories, gigafactories, all looking for more sustainable materials because the volume and capacity are increased. So the three pillars are safety, range, and cost. And our approach is to make a sustainable material using recycled metals and biopolymers from biomass or recycled materials. So those are more sustainable solutions than existing today. So we have a good potential to contribute to capacity increase. From that standpoint, it's happening right now. So this COVID situation slows down our validation a bit because we are testing on clients and customer sites, and the cycle takes a little bit longer than usual, but we see very high interest in near term. So I think this year and next year will show significant increase in EV outcome, and especially in the growth areas in Asia, Europe, and US picks up. So we are in good time to market.
Sweet. It's really positive, I guess, considerations there. I think this is far too short of a panel time. I think we're gonna have to move on. I think this is a wonderful topic. I almost want to get together and have you all for a longer conversation at some point. But I really appreciate all of the insights and really looking forward to hearing great news in 2021 from all of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.